Hello, sir. Mr. Femi, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well, loud and
Okay.
clear.
All right. Just testing to be sure. All right, sir.
Okay, thank you.
So we're live on Facebook now as well. So just waiting for people to join in. I'll send another
Okay,
message to everyone.
okay, fantastic.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
I can hear you very well, loud and clear. All right, just testing to be sure. All right, sir. Okay, thank you.
So we're live on Facebook now as well. Just waiting for people to join in. Absolutely,
Yes,
sir.
okay, yeah, yeah.
Um, okay.
Mr. Diagbo, good afternoon.
Um, hold on. Just move them away. Just yes. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
Yes, I'm good.
Can you hear me?
Hello. So we're just waiting for the start.
Okay, that's fine.
So far we've had just one person that has joined in to the session. Once it's 3 o'clock, I'll please request. So I would be the one to give us the I will copy the questions as soon as I get them, and then I'll share it on the chat group here so that we can access those
Hello,
questions.
Bumi.
Yes, sir.
Bumi, are you there?
Yes, sir.
I
Yes, sir.
just got 2 calls now. They are saying that they are not able to log in.
Okay, that's strange because I just logged in from the link and I logged in success. And some people have even joined in from the link.
Right.
But some people I have it, Derek Emmanuel. Some people have joined in. Please, they should try it
Do you know
again
how
and
many
see.
people?
And let's see.
Do you know how many people have logged in?
I want to get that information now.
Okay.
So far, we have 5 people that have joined in from. So far, we have 5 people that have joined in from.
Mr. Diago, can we start? Or we should give them 5 minutes? Said it's only 5. Can you mute, please? I can't hear you.
I think we should give them 5 minutes. There's no harm in doing that. Yes.
All right, no problem.
Okay, so if you can hear me, I think we have roughly about 30 people now. I think we can start the session and they can hear us right now. So the session
Yes,
is
people are still saying the link is not opening.
that would be weird. I just tried the link again. So what I've done is I've also resent the link to everybody again.
Is that the link with the bit.ly? Yeah.
Absolutely, sir. That's the link. An email again has been sent to everybody with the link.
Something is wrong with this link. People are not able to open it.
Okay.
Coming up on the watch.
Can you regenerate it? I think it's worth pausing a couple of minutes. Regenerate it. Is it possible?
Done that. I just did that. I'm watching the link that people are. If you click the link from what I sent to you, it should take you directly to the page directly. What I just reordered it again to make it link up to the YouTube page. So this shouldn't even be difficult at all, except they are clicking on another link. Some people have joined in. We have Muhammad Ali asking why we're so silent. I'm sure you can see.
Let me ask somebody in the office to try it as well.
I've been able to join in and it's taking me to the page. So it's fine from my end. Yeah.
Okay, so 2 people have just sent messages that with the picture of what is showing them. Because you may be getting that with a lot of people. It's showing something is wrong here. 404 error. Can you see my screen?
Can I see the link that you're clicking, please? Was it the same one I sent to you, please?
Okay, I think it's now working. Something was wrong with it. Yes.
Yeah.
This one.
Okay. That link should work. It's not.
Okay. So somebody has just said it's working now. You can't get in. It's unresponsive. Is the problem with Zoom?
No, it's not even a Zoom. Let me send you. I think I will send something to you now. Please check your WhatsApp message. This is what we've sent out. Please click this one without the HTTP. Hold on, please.
No, because I'm just forwarding it to people.
Please just
So
hold on. Okay, please use this one I just sent to you. Let's see. Let's hope that, I mean, for those people that are having that challenge, what I've done is that
it has worked.
if you just forward the one I sent to you directly now, let's see how that works.
Okay, I'm doing so.
Hello. Yes, good afternoon.
Okay. It does
Right.
not require.
Okay. Okay. I'll text it to your phone now. Okay.
So we have 50 people watching right now. I'm sure people should be able to start clicking in. I've sent another email. I'm sure everyone who has the challenge will probably just click on the new email and get into the system. Let's hope that this time around, those who were having issues will probably be those who were trying to log in before the session started. But from the moment we went live, the session was available. So I'm presuming that those who have issues probably just click the link
So
and then they're
isn't it wise to tell that way you can? So can you reach the 50 people to let them know, maybe you're delaying it slightly?
Absolutely, we've done that. It's on, so they know we'll be
So just
starting in the
message.
next 5 minutes. Everything we are saying here, they can hear us.
That's fine.
So to everyone who has registered and who is online right now, please be. And we're getting a bit of some complaints from people that we want to allow as many people who have registered to be part of this. We have a sizable number of people who have registered for this session, and we want to get as much as those people into the system before we commence. The speaker and our moderator are all set. So in the next maybe 5 minutes, we should get all of this sorted out, and then we will commence this session. We have roughly about 50 people currently looking at this. And we're hoping that the numbers will rise any moment from now. Okay, it's rising slowly. We have about 132 people now viewing our platform. We have 110 now. At any time that the moderator feels right to start, we can go ahead and start. We have 134 people and the number is currently rising. Mr. Femi, please, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. This is 16. We take off 4 minutes time, 15:20.
Okay, all right.
So put us live 15:20. So I'll take off. Good afternoon, everyone. We want to sincerely apologize for starting a little bit late. This is a platform for Glimpses Training Services, and we are ready to go now. We apologize for a few people who are struggling with their internet, but we have enough people to start this session. Today's session is topical. Today's session is going to be important because of a lot of discussions that have been going on about it. My name is Femi Yedipe. I'm a solicitor by profession, and we're going to be talking about cybersecurity. The reason why we're looking at the ethical considerations and professional opportunities for Nigerian lawyers is because we want to raise awareness among our lawyers on the dimensions of cybersecurity in legal practice. We also feel that there is need to promote and encourage the adoption of these ethical cybersecurity practices within the profession. And we feel that there is need to explore, highlight professional opportunities and growth prospects for our young lawyers, especially in the field of cybersecurity. At the end of the training, we will believe that participants will have a comprehensive understanding of the ethical considerations that we've used as the basis for this discussion. So Lionel Silk, my colleagues, and other members of the bar present here at this platform. Without wasting too much of your time, I want to introduce our guest speaker for today, as somebody who has been involved in a lot of issues surrounding cybersecurity. He's a law graduate from the University of London, and for over 20 years, he's been involved in high-level ICT initiatives, both within Nigeria and outside the shores of this country. He was involved in a lot of ICT policy formulation, both technical and functional requirements, for developing and evaluating and implementation monitoring for critical projects involving cybersecurity. Today's speaker is Mr. Olufemi Adiago. He's the CEO of Comnavig, and I don't want to go too much into his profile because of what he had done within the government and the private sector initiatives. He was involved in designing a lot of things for the federal government, and he would speak on the framework for cybersecurity. We will have a short session break to review what he has said, and we will go into the second part of the framework. Gentlemen of the bar, my colleagues, Lionel Silk, I present to you Mr. Olufemi Adiago, who will now take over the discussion. You're welcome, Mr. Adiago. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Femi, for that introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much indeed for inviting me to speak on this very, very topical issue. I hope I'm coming across loud and clear because of the technical glitches we have had. And without much ado, I'll dive into the meat of the matter, as it were. I would first like to, if you like, set some context around this very topical issue so that we actually get an accurate grasp, if you like, of the threatscape around cybersecurity and its particular context to lawyers, law firms, and in fact, entire legal ecosystems, as it were. Law firms have actually increasingly, globally, become very attractive targets for cyber attackers, cyber criminals, for a number of reasons. I mean, the confidentiality and criticality of the kind of information law firms and lawyers hold, the breadth of that kind of information. It's transactional information oftentimes, it's personal information, very intimate information. At times it's information concerning estates. And, you know, probably apart from the medical environment, you could almost argue that the legal sector tends to hold the chunk of critical information about individuals and organizations. And of course, a lot of transactions flow through law firms as well. So that makes them very, very attractive targets, if you like, for cyber criminals. So I'm going to talk a bit about, you know, the threatscape, the kind of threats we're seeing, what mitigating efforts have been made from a regulatory and legislative perspective. And, you know, maybe after we do a Q&A on that, we can then talk about the kind of opportunities that this threat environment actually portends for lawyers, as it were. So increasingly, lawyers are exposed to liability in terms of the data they hold. There are laws, we'll come to that in a second. And there are as well a lot of new types of threats that we haven't really seen before. A lot of them haven't propagated in Nigeria to that sense, like the insider man threats. But, you know, I know our lawyers are very credible people. They have to be fit and proper people. But I mean, I'll point to a couple of instances where insiders have actually been the ones that have done the damage. And no one is immune, regardless of what kind of security you put in place, regardless of how robust it is. The cyber criminals are also not sleeping. You probably have read about last week, was it the week before? Allen and Overy. I'm sure most of you know about Allen and Overy, the Magic Circle law firm in the UK. You know, they suffered a logbit attack. And that's a ransomware attack where these criminals hold everything within the law firm and then contact you and say you have to pay some certain amount of money in Bitcoin. If you don't pay, they start leaking this information online. I forget the name of the other law firm that leaked Lady Gaga's details. And, you know, even though they denied paying, the better view is that some money exchanged hands, and regardless of that, a lot of that information made it to the dark web where it's tradable. You know, people are buying and selling very personal details about all these pop stars, because that particular law firm actually holds a lot of briefs and data relating to pop stars in the US. So no one is immune. Law firms have become very, very attractive attack destination for cyber criminals for obvious reasons. Now, the threat surface, if we talk about the threat surface, as it were, has expanded dramatically. And COVID was a factor behind this, because COVID introduced work from home. It introduced, you know, using multiple type of devices for communicating with corporate servers. So mobile phones that are also used for personal purposes. So you have this expansion, if you like, of the threats surface. So phishing, where they kind of like try to simplify, to basically get login details by sending emails that look legitimate. By the time you click on it, you know, they take your login credentials, keylogger, where they actually monitor the keystrokes on the laptop. Evil proxy, that's a new one. It's very, very deadly, very dangerous, where they mimic a proxy server that brokers between the organization and, say, cloud platform. So that renders all your two-factor authentication pretty much useless, because it actually gets the authentication credentials and uses that to log in. So it's a big problem, basically. BECs, business email compromise. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that. You probably know about the case of a Nigerian social media influencer called Hush Puppy. One of the things he went down for was a BEC compromise of a law firm in the US. So somebody has sold a property. They were expecting the credit from the mortgage company, which did not come through because the email or the transaction documents had been intercepted, account numbers had been changed, and the monies had basically been moved before the law firm even knew what was happening. So the threatscape has dramatically expanded to include this sort of actions. You obviously heard about Mossack Fonseca as well, which was a massive hack of a law firm. Now, why is this important? In that case, about 11.5 million records were actually stolen. Yes, some of it, some people would argue, exposed corruption and corrupt practices and money laundering destinations and activities across the world. But bottom line, it was a hack, and that law firm had to just shut down. Basically, there was no way they could recover from it. Greenleaf in 2021, a US-based firm as well, where 4 lawyers who were planning to leave had systematically stolen files, stolen data, compromised the systems, deleted their activities, to such an extent that even though they were eventually discovered, basically they crippled the law firm, and the law firm had to shut that office down. So really, the threatscape is significant. In Nigeria, to bring it back home, we're seeing a lot of these threats as well. We took part in some events with the Office of the National Security Advisor. I think that was last year. And, you know, law firms are actually part of those at the top of the attack vectors. And these attacks are coming in from everywhere. Russia, Thailand, Philippines, India, Ukraine, you know, because everyone understands the volume of transactions that are orchestrated in Nigeria, especially around law firms that deal in oil and gas as well. So, you know, the requirement or the need to build robust defense mechanisms has never been more urgent, as it were. So, there has been some legislative response. There's been a lot of regulatory response. I'm sure you are familiar with the NDPA Act, which was signed into law 2023, I believe in June, by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. And that act, in a sense, if you like, converges some of the existing regulations from NIDA Act, some elements from the Cybercrime Act as well, to provide obligations on people called data controllers and data processors in respect of data subjects. Data subjects would be you and I, individuals. Data controllers would be people who actually hold data, and the categorization goes into whether it's significant data or nominal data as well. But in any case, a lot of obligations are placed in terms of the lawfulness of the data, the fairness in how it's used, the transparency, the purpose, the minimization of data in itself, so that what's not needed is not being processed in that sense. The accuracy, how you store the data, what the limitations are in terms of storage, the integrity of the data, and accountability. And the requirements actually apply to persons in Nigeria, and to entities processing data relating to data subjects, even if they are outside Nigeria. That opens up we'll see how that is tested in due course in terms of jurisdiction and things of that nature. But it's a very, very clear, cogent step to say that there must be some measure of responsibility when you hold data in that sense. Also, the Cybercrime Act of 2015 provides quite expansive protection in terms of how data should be protected, and in terms of the kind of acceptable use of data, and in fact how you use these networks. And I think this is very important for lawyers to understand as well, from the ethical dimension. It's been tested in court by a lawyer, Mr. Okedara, who sued the Attorney General on the basis that Section 24 of the Cybercrime Act was inconsistent with the freedom of expression provisions guaranteed under Section 39 of the Nigerian Constitution. And as we all know, the Constitution is superior to every other subsidiary legislation. However, the Court of Appeal found that the Cybercrime Act was not inconsistent. And in other words, you could be convicted of a criminal offense, you could go to jail. If you send anything that is offensive, indecent, menacing, knowing it to be false for the purpose of causing annoyance, inconvenience, danger, obstruction, insult, injury, criminal intimidation, hatred, ill will, needless anxiety, and so on and so forth. And you could be liable on conviction to a fine of no more than 7 million naira or imprisonment for a term not exceeding 3 years, or both. So again, we can see that the overall use of technology, the overall obligations of responsible and fair use, ethical use, the requirement to protect information within your custody as lawyers, law firms, is becoming increasingly prominent in terms of how you're held responsible and accountable for it. There are other difficult areas. For example, there's an obligation to report. I think that's contained in the Cybercrime Act as well. So, and there are also penalties for actually not reporting. So again, there are some slippery areas that I think in time will come to the fore, will be tested before the law courts, and will offer significant opportunities and place significant obligations as well on practitioners of law. But suffice to say at this point that cybersecurity is at the apex, in our view, of consideration for responsible law firms, because the implications of cyber breaches can not only be devastating, they could be existential, they could be terminal for some law firms. They could be significantly damaging in terms of reputational loss, financial loss, and of course, the damage to clients can only be imagined. So in a nutshell, I think that's the context I would like to lay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Diago. We appreciate the introductory information you've given us. I'm sure that a lot of my colleagues are willing to look for more information. But just in a summary, what you've just presented to us is this threatscape, which I just want to quickly run through. In other words, no one is immune from all these significant threats, and the lawyers are exposed to liability in terms of leakages of confidential information. You spoke also about stealing of data by existing staff, which means that people working within the law firm have to also be protected, and you have to find a way to guide against people taking information that can cause a lot of financial losses, reputational loss, and client confidentiality, and client loss of confidence on the part of the client. You spoke about the fact that lawyers hold a lot of data, which requires high level of responsibility. And for ordinary individuals and even for law firms, there are criminal liabilities for violating the Cyber Act. And there is therefore this responsibility which is placed on professionals to protect information that are within their care. Gentlemen, we've had that part. Just as a brief, just as a note, I will want, if you have any question, please send it to the Q&A platform, and then so that we will collate that at the end of the session. I would like to find out from Mr. Diago, because two things which I pulled out from this is that what level of protection should the firm put, especially since the lawyer has some level of confidentiality not to expose what is being that has been obtained in the line of professional services. There's also the need to find out whether a firm has officers within its organization who can help in ensuring that there are compliance, and what are the modes of compliance within the firm. What should be put in place in order to ensure compliance with this act? You have quite a lot of politically exposed people who engage lawyers. You have quite a lot of people, interesting Nigerians, who instruct on their personal lives. And you also have things relating to people using information against political opponents. These are information that are held by professionals in their professional capacity. and they have a duty of care in ensuring that that information is not leaked out, whether you're still within that organization or you are out. In other words, what form of protection is required for a data compliance officer, and what should be the technical composition of how that is structured out within the system. So maybe if you can help us go through some of these things, and especially you spoke about criminal liabilities. Is that criminal liabilities on the part of the lawyer, or you have criminal liability on the part of private individuals when they send Instagram? There are situations where people spend so much time on social media, and when they have heartbreak and things like that, and you hear people who have been in previous relationships exposing private information that were not previously known. These are some of the things that we want you to quickly look at, so that people can be more enlightened, especially knowing fully well that this is a professional platform, and we want to know how to be immune from being prosecuted. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Quite a number of questions loaded into that one, but I'll untangle them one by one. So, let me actually expand on the definition of insider threats that I spoke about earlier on, because that's actually one of the most worrisome, should I say, threats that is becoming prominent globally. Because it's like defending your perimeter walls at home, but if the cook or somebody in the house is already compromised, it makes matters even more difficult from a defensive viewpoint. There's the malicious, and I'll come to the other questions you raised in a second. I just wanted to really zoom in on this aspect, as it were. There's the malicious aspect. There's the where maybe you've sacked someone, maybe there's a disagreement, they have to leave, and they think, okay, I'm going to do you in. That happens. There's the naive insider risk, where there was an experiment we used to speak about years back, that if you just take about 10 USB sticks, throw them in the car park, someone is likely to be tempted, to see what's on the USB stick when they get into the office. So they think, oh, somebody's dropped a USB stick here. Out of 10 people, one person will probably be tempted to see what's on it, pop it in, compromise. The bad guys are in. It can be that simple. That's a naive insider who had no malicious intent, but have actually been used in that sense to penetrate the organization. So, and that's what happens with phishing, email threats, and all this. So when we talk about insider threats in that sense, the threats are not always from a malicious insider. It could be from a naive insider. It could be from an insider who's just curious about something, or somebody who uses social media recklessly in that sense. So they're using the same device to go to, maybe I shouldn't mention specific platforms, but the common platforms people go to, download this, download that, and before they know it, they have something that's compromised their device, and then they use the same device to access a corporate server, and basically the malware is in and the bad guys are in. It could be that simple. So the grid of defense, as I like to call it, starts really with governance. There must be a governance ecosystem in place that sets out what the expectations are for technology, what the expectations are for securing confidential information, what the expectations are in terms of how you even procure the technology to make sure it's fit for the purpose you want it to be, how you evaluate it on an ongoing basis. All these things must first be captured in a governance framework. So basically, it's the same way. You establish a nation state. There's a constitution. So that's the ground norm. That's saying these are the rules. Then we pick out the specific and granular guidelines, if you like, what we call the user policies, what you should do, what you should not do. Don't use USB. Don't bring in an external drive. Some organizations actually buy computers that don't have, you can't even put in the external drive in the first place. So it's blocked. So there's no need for them to monitor that. What kind of documents you should leave on the desks, what you should not leave on the desk, how long before your screen shuts down if you're working on sensitive documents, how you save information, what kind of environment you save them in. If you're using cloud platforms, for example, what levels of security, how do you back up the data to ensure continuity, just in case something goes wrong? And all this sort of mechanisms. So you have the governance framework, you actually have the what we call the user policies, as it were. What kind of culture? People miss this a lot. What kind of culture pervades in that establishment? How do you train people to understand that security is only as good as the weakest link, so that it's a team effort? It's we against the bad guys effort from an institutional perspective. How do you monitor behavior? How do you monitor behavior deviation? There are some tools that do what we call user behavior analysis. I mentioned about Greenleaf earlier on, the firm in Wilmington, where for internal staff had basically orchestrated these breaches. Now, if they had a behavior analysis tool, for example, it would have flagged someone to say, these guys are downloading an unusual amount of files. They are deleting an unusual amount of emails. This is a deviation from the normal trend. And then somebody could have picked it up much, much earlier on and actually prevented this happening. So culture is very, very important to make sure everybody is on the same page, to make sure everybody is aware of how these risks can devastate the entire organization and themselves too. That's a very, very important point. And then, of course, there's the whole bouquet of technology. And that becomes a case of how long is a piece of string? How often do you do what we call vulnerability and penetration tests to actually see what the loopholes are, to pretend to be a bad guy so that you can see how strong your defenses actually are. What sort of email protection systems do you have? Do you have them from one provider, or do you have a policy that says they must be from multiple providers so that you don't have all your eggs, in a sense, in one basket? That is a function of what kind of governance framework or rules you set for the organization. Some people think it's important, some think it's not. Some say, okay, look, we just stay with one person and it's best of breed. What sort of training do you have? What sort of training ecosystem do you have? How often are you testing the lawyers to make sure that they are actually on their toes? There are tools that do that now that just throw out these scenarios once in a while without warning to see what people would do. And then they can compile, if you like, the score sheet, so you can see that, oh, this person, they failed it. So we need to put them through more training to let them understand that, you can't be this careless. There are solutions now that allow you to containerize mobile phones. So, even though it's the same phone, it has a compartment for work-related items and a compartment for personal items, and they can never meet, so that regardless of where that remote lawyer or worker is, you have the same security standards protecting your clients, especially now that clients are beginning to demand to see, some briefs now. They would insist, look, we want to see that you have this step, this step, this step, this step in place before we can give you this brief. So it's not only a matter of protecting yourself, it's becoming critical to actually win business. And in fact, critical from a compliance viewpoint for some kind of briefs they simply won't give you if you don't have those things in place. So one of the things people use as the gold standard is the International Standards Organization 27001 certification. Of course, that comes again with a gamut of opportunities for lawyers because they're quite complex audits. You must have some certain level of certification or proficiency to undertake an audit. A certified firm must actually have, I think, is it 2 persons in the firm who have gone through the certification themselves. So again, it's a big opportunity for lawyers. With the NDPA, they are the people that are called data protection officers who are actually trained and who go through a certification so that they can actually evaluate that the firm is actually up to scratch in that sense, in terms of its compliance obligations. Because as we mentioned earlier on, this can attract significant sanctions. So how do you manage documents? What kind of technology platforms do you use for document management? Are they local? Are they cloud-based? If they are cloud-based, how secure is your cloud provider? Is it a globally recognized company? Are you indemnified if the worst happens? These are all questions that increasingly practice managers and IT responsibility owners in many law firms are beginning to take very, very, very serious. I mean, we're working with about 2 or 3 at the moment, can't mention them, but these are some of the extensive steps they have taken and massive investments in technology sets and in bringing their people up to speed, because it's a cultural change. It's almost like thinking defense all the time. You just can't be careless because it's just one gap, one weakness, one vulnerability that the bad guy is looking for, and that can destroy decades of reputation building. So it's as we mentioned earlier on, it's at the apex of priorities now for law firms. Of course, it depends on, again, the profile of clients that the law firm is actually prospecting or maintaining in that sense. So yes, technology, governance, the culture of the organization, and continuous testing to make sure that all these things are actually being adhered to by the stakeholders in the law firm. And of course, the wider ecosystem. That's also very, very important. What do I mean by the wider ecosystem? Supplier chains, vulnerabilities can come through there. Even clients, vulnerabilities can come in through there. So again, defense is an ecosystem issue rather than at times just a narrow me, myself, and I focus of a law firm. Because again, the vectors of attack and the threatscape can extend beyond just the law firm to people they have continuous connectivities to. So it's very expansive. It can be expensive, but the consequences are always more often than not much more expensive than the steps needed to be put in place to mitigate against these risks. I hope I've answered that. Yes. What level of security? Extremely high level of security, I would say. Because we mentioned banks, of course. We all know that banks are primary targets and they do get hit. They do get hit. People take money from banks, not always reported for obvious reasons. Law firms come, very high in that threatscape as well. So it's very, very high level of security. Officers required, I've mentioned that, the DCOs and maybe ISO auditors, internal ISO auditors. Your IT team as well needs to be, some people go as far, believe it or not, as actually putting people through a polygraph, even in Nigeria. Yep. They do polygraph tests for IT staff in some environments because they are just a massive vulnerability point. You just need one bad guy there and it's all over. Because that's a person who is monitoring the behavioral truth. So if it's compromised, you have no defenses. So that's very, very important as well. So I would say these are some of the steps, or should I say some of the inputs that need to be in place, and some of the opportunities as well for those who are looking to actually build out a career path, perhaps, in the legal aspects of cybersecurity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Adiabo. We've taken you through that long journey. I'm sure that some of my colleagues are watching this space. Let me just quickly summarize some of the things that you just said in terms of the technology required. One of the things you hit at is that banks and law firms are top targets for cyber crimes. That's scary because we don't keep money, but we keep people's personal information. And you also spoke about user policies in terms of, for instance, use of external hard drives should be restricted in practice, especially where you have staff who will copy things or delete information, which can put you in a serious danger. You also mentioned the fact that a firm must set up a culture on data and governance policies. And then you should have a way to know whether a staff is copying or deleting information. In other words, you must have your bouquet of technologies. You advise that we should have a penetration test. Is there a way that emails are protected, email protection system? And you mentioned also that clients are now demanding to see the internal data culture before giving out briefs. What that basically means is that a lot of corporate entities will walk into your firm, ask you questions to know whether the instructions you are getting are protected in terms of the existing laws and whether you are not exposed to cyber issues. You advise that firms should train people in data protection by way of compliance certification, and also advise that we should have technology platforms for data storage. I'll come back to the issue of indemnity policy. However, you said cyber practice is creating a culture change. In other words, a future with, a breach, a failure in your governance policy would destroy your decades of reputation. There's no doubt about that. I'm aware of that information because I know there was a time there was an information on social media that a lot of journalists were scooping around to know what politicians were buying in terms of private assets. Any firm that had exposed that information could have been in real danger. And then you also advised checking on vulnerability channels, especially clients, information you send to clients and suppliers chain. I actually want to talk about the issue of indemnity. Indemnity insurance is not compulsory at the moment. However, with this level of threat on data, with this level of threat on this aspect of law, would you advise that law firms will consider outsourcing their data storage, or they should have it? If they are sourcing their data storage, what should they be looking at? Should they be demanding indemnity from such outsourced companies? And then the second point I want to raise is, with all this Data Protection Act, Cybersecurity Act, is it not possible to align those laws? Do you think there are conflicts in some of these laws, especially since they are coming after the other? Because it looks as if we're making those laws haphazardly. We're not really looking at global practices where you could have a single law that would look at some of these things, because some of the issues in data protection are also related to Cybersecurity Act. And then you now have virtually everybody spending time on social media. What should we as lawyers be looking out for when you have such issues arising from the firm? And then I'll quickly look at our platform to see if we have question and answers for you. But I know you've said a lot of things today, but I just want us to look at the indemnity aspect and whether IT protection should be outsourced or one should build an internal mechanism for it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? It's saying internet was stable, but I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Okay. So, I think there are about three strands to your first question on indemnity. One is you asked whether it was advisable to outsource data in that sense. Well, in a sense, we're all on cloud platforms. So it's already outsourced, isn't it? If somebody hacks my Gmail account now, takes my banking information, steals money, do I really have a case against Google? Because they are the ones, I mean, I'm not managing the data. I'm paying to use them. Am I indemnified? To what extent am I indemnified? Is anyone going to really put out a comprehensive product that provides the kind of indemnification that allows you to go to bed with both eyes closed? How do you value reputational loss? These are, in my view, unresolved areas in terms of the management, or should I say, the undertaking of risk related to cybersecurity, because nobody knows what the sheer extent of the risk could be. If I'm insuring a cargo of oil, I think the algorithms, there are calculations that allow you to gauge your level of risk. With cyber, quite frankly, it's elastic. Nobody knows. So that makes, I know a couple, I think I've read about a couple of products in terms of indemnifying against cyber attacks, but I'm not sure that there are products that don't have get out of jail clauses in that sense, where it's very, very hard because, invalidating your indemnity would be easy if basically I can point a governance gap, a technology gap, something that you should have done that you've not done. So it becomes a slippery slope in that sense. So indemnity is for me an unresolved area. Now, you should always try to be in control of your data as much as possible. We know that. But the world we live in now, that's also not easy, because a lot of the technology providers are literally forcing people to the cloud. They are forcing you to their own servers. So in a sense, the link between you and your data is the connectivity. Do you really control the data in that sense from a security viewpoint? Yes, you have a lot of say in how you secure even your virtual cloud assets in that sense. But then we've seen even the best of the best breached. We've seen the Pentagon breached. You can't layer more security than institutions like the Pentagon in the US. They've been breached nominally, but breaches have happened. So the major companies, the major providers invest billions in protecting their platforms. The major ones: Amazon, Microsoft, Oracle Cloud, Google. They expend a lot of money, and they have teams who are there also. It's a constant battle between good and evil in that sense. And then you have, of course, the secondary layer industry, where you have a lot of people who make specific security solutions. Of course, artificial intelligence has come into the fray, and that's helping. But the same artificial intelligence can be used by bad actors, to attack. So it's a problem, basically. that needs ongoing vigilance, mitigation, and investment in that sense. I think the third question you asked was multiple legislation is what you're saying, really. I think many people would like to see one go-to law that covers everything to do with technology safety, for example, because at the moment, yes, even though those laws do not conflict, yes, you'd find some provisions in the Cybersecurity Act, which may not be in the MPDA. There's a NIDA Act. There may be some regulations with NCC. FPCCC may have some regulations too, in terms of protecting consumers, which is their remit. So yes, there's a good argument to say, look, because of the criticality and centrality of technology to our lives in all ramifications, in business, in our personal lives, could we or should we not just have one omnibus law? So you repeal all the rest, pull out everything they are saying into this technology safety law. I think the UK online safety law, it's probably something that's headed in that direction. Because it addresses, things like cyberbullying, conduct online, cybersecurity. MPDA here, for example, does not address corporates. So the data subjects covered by the MPDA are individuals. So I'm not sure that if I were X Limited, I can bring action for liability against a law firm or a data controller, in a sense, could be a telecoms company, could be anyone, under that legislation. I can bring it against an individual. So I can bring it if I were an individual, but if I were a corporate, I can't do it under MPDA. So, but I may be able to do it under some other legislation. So yes, personally, I would love to see one go-to legislation that covers everything to do with cyber. Everything.
Thank you, Mr. Diagbo. We're rounding up now. We've been speaking for over an hour, and I know that it's time to round up. Just before we go, I have just 2 points from one from Mr. Shegilola Kinwumi, who wants to know, how do you trace someone who has breached your data storage? In other words, is there a device, is there a way to mechanically or physically check who has breached a data storage, or a data information in your firm? And the second question is from Mr. Woyomi Uluwafemi. That is by way of a comment that lawyers should actually be in the forefront of data admin and other cyber security practices. However, he wants to know if Halogen organizes training. Halogen is a partner with Glimpse's legal training services, and we handle all our activities together. They provide us with some support. They are partners with us, and we have platforms that can take over 5,000 lawyers at a time for training. Glimpse's legal training services commenced operations about 2 years ago, and we've carried out quite a number of trainings in-house to a lot of law firms. And our flagship training was conducted in June which was known as the Principles of Good Practice on Office Management and Client Service Satisfaction. Just before we go, Mr. Segilola Kiwumi's question is, how do you trace? Are there physical devices that will help you determine who has breached your storage? And then we can round up if there are no further questions. Thank you, Mr. Diago.
Thank you very much, Femi. Yes, there are, so you need to think of security in two broad senses. So we've spoken about all the tools and mechanisms you can put in place to deter, to defend against an attack. What if it happens? Well, there's another industry, which is the, if you like, the response, to just simplify it, the response industry. So there are specialized organizations. Now there are specialized artificial intelligence tools that can trace, well, in some cases, actually, I'm not sure how ethical that is. Fight back, actually, attack the source of attack as well. You know, those tools exist. There are specialized entities who even engage in ransomware negotiation when the worst has happened and they have your balls, for want of a better word. Because at times, you know, it happens. Big firms, when they are held hostage, I mean, you saw the Australian one recently. I think it was the power company in Australia, or was it a bank? I mean, they just had to negotiate, you know, because they've held everything. You can't transact. You can't do anything. They are threatening that within 24 hours, if you don't pay up using Bitcoin or something, they are going to press the delete button, you know. So in that period, there are people who would try to counter, grab the data back, or what have you. But if they are unable to, they also train people who would negotiate payments with these criminals in that sense. So yes, the answer is you can. It depends on the sophistication of the attacker or attackers. There are some known groups globally. One is afraid to even mention their names, Black Cat, people like that, you know, who are, you know, very deadly in what they do. There are state actors, state-sponsored actors, again, who are very vicious. Tracing them may be a problem. But the less, should I say, sophisticated actors in that sense can be easily traced, and are often traced and prosecuted as well, and jailed. You know, that happens as well. So yes, there are tools called MDR tools, monitor, detect, response tools. Some of these tools are offered as a service. So you can subscribe, pay monthly subscription. They are, you know, they are looking after your systems to ensure that if anything untoward happens, they can actually respond, at times even before you even know something is going on. So maybe they've stepped on the case. I believe organizations like Halogen on the cyber side of their operations offer this kind of sophisticated service in partnership with some leading global organizations, as it were. So yes, the answer is yes. It's doable. It's offered at different levels of sophistication and expense, again, depending on the profile and what you are protecting. You know, somebody, I think Femi mentioned that law firms don't keep money, but law firms keep the keys at times that unlock money. Or, you know, money in motion. You know, so the bank is already acted, they release money before anybody realizes that, or the instruction. I mentioned the Hush Puppy one, the Hush Puppy BEC. Typical example. It was the law firm that was hacked. The account number was actually changed. So by the time it got to the people paying in the bank, they were paying a legitimate invoice, but the account number had been swapped in the law firm without the law firm realizing. You know, so they only realized when the gentleman who was expecting his money for the property it sold did not see money. Said, hey, what's happening to my mortgage? You've sold this thing, now where's the money? And then, you know, it's like, well, we sent the money 2 weeks ago. No, I've not seen it. Email compromise. So hacking is also, sadly, on a concluding note, cyber attacks are also available as a service. Unfortunately, there are also platforms that people can pay to launch a cyber attack against someone. So there really now isn't the need to be a sophisticated cyber attacker before you can actually mount a cyber attack on a target company. So that threatscape I spoke about at the beginning has expanded significantly because there are now rental services, for want of a better word, on the dark web that people can just pay a little bit of money and say, I want to attack XYZ Limited, and the tool goes into action. Some of them are artificial intelligence-oriented tools as well. So, yeah, it's a scary world, but the risks can be mitigated by what I call good cyber hygiene, very tough cyber laws. And I think this is what sectors like the legal sector should push for. Some would argue that some of the sanctions are not strong enough to deter. You know, if you are waging a tool that can wreck reputations built over decades, maybe you should be ready to serve decades in jail as well. So, you know, but that's a discussion, because you look at some of the sanctions now, 1 year in prison, it's not, you know, some people would argue that it's not strong enough. So, but in conclusion, cyber hygiene is very important. And the opportunities are also phenomenal for those who want to look at this space as a practice area or as an occupational area, because the threats are not going away anytime soon. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Adiago. Learned Silk, my colleagues, we've listened to someone who served as a consultant to PENCOM on ICT initiatives, and someone who also served as a consultant to the Committee on National ICT Policy under the ministerial appointment of Mrs. Mobola Johnson some years ago. And I'm sure you've heard it all. Mr. Mike Ibukui mentioned that cyber technology should now be part of our professional conduct rules. And I think I will agree with that. Well, the take of all this is that we've heard it all. There is need for cyber hygiene, and that is a key point. Law firms are top on the agenda for people who they want to attack. And the scary thing is that people now get contracts to attack others after being paid money. I want to thank Mr. Adiago for taking time out to provide us with this free webinar. We do this very often, and we decided we need somebody who is top on the agenda. And this topic is no less important than other topics, because a lot of people have been itching to join the cyber cyber practice. And you've heard it all from him. We want to thank him very much on behalf of Academy Halogen and our directors, Mr. Shewa Bimbola, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Mr. Adele Udusonya, Senior Partner, Atlantic Solicitors, Mrs. Bose Odueke, the Managing Director of Alpha Oasis International, and our always support from Dr. Wale Adiago. We want to thank you all for this support. I want to thank my learned seniors and my colleagues for joining this program. Mr. Adiago, we really thank you very much. Mr. Adiago, we want to thank you for this time. We have listened to all this. We will do a summary, and then if there's need for us to harass you again, you can be sure that we will come back. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be looking out for you, especially since you've given them that hint about the fact that cyber practice is a huge area of law. And I agree that it's something we need to pay attention to.
It's a good privilege.
I want to thank everyone. Beg your pardon?
It's a great privilege and honor. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. And that is the end of the program. Thank you very much. Bye.